Welcome to Big Stuff. We've got a how are you really, because a listener wrote into me with something that stopped me cold in my tracks. She wrote, I know I'm not worthy because I fuck up. I make mistakes and I'm not a good person. Then the rest of her email went on to tell me all these ways that she is actually a really great human. She told me about paying back over $100,000 in debt, about a family who have forgiven her, about being a great employee and a really good mum. She knows cognitively that everyone makes mistakes. She can also be really compassionate with other people when they make mistakes. But when it comes to her, crickets. Here's the thing that broke my heart. She ended her email with, I would never allow my daughters to speak about themselves the way I let my brain speak to me. Wow, that hits, right? And if that hits you, then keep listening. Because today we're going to be talking about the cruelest lie that we tell ourselves, that our self-worth is something that needs to be earned, that it is something that can be lost, and that it is something that is up for debate. I'm going to tell you something that might seem impossible right now, but your worth was never a question. It is not up for debate. I work with so many women who come with self-worth issues, and we're really looking at that. I'm not enough. I'm broken. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. All of that sort of stuff is really, really deeply ingrained. Now, I'm having conversations with women in leadership who are doing really big, powerful jobs, who are very, very successful on paper, yet somehow this little sticky, tricky, nasty mofo is living rent-free inside of her heart and soul. Not soul. Your soul definitely knows. Your soul definitely knows. I think it's actually your brain. Your brain is the tricksy one, right? Your brain is the one that tells you the stories. However, these beliefs are not actually yours. What happens is when you are young, when you are usually between the ages of 0 and 7, you are in your imprint era. This is the time in your life where you are working out how you fit in the world. What does the world mean, and how does it all work in relation to yourself? And often there are messages that have been received by people around us that we then make mean something. So these beliefs that we have around our worthiness, around our value, around our lovability, around us being good enough are often things that we have adopted out of a need for survival. But when you are told enough times that you are too loud, that you are too precocious, that you are too outgoing, that you are too silly, that you are too whatever, too anything, we internalize that as there is something wrong with us and I need to change. I would like to imagine that as parents these days, we are much better at recognizing these damaging and hurtful things that we say. But ultimately, we were parented by the people we were parented by, who were parented by the people who parented them. And sometimes the learnings or the evolution of our selves as humans doesn't quite catch up to, I guess, the psychology that we know of rearing children and how our words can cause damage. Don't overthink it, but do be aware that if you do catch yourself saying any of those things, to come back around and have a further conversation about it with your child, okay? But when it comes to you and your own beliefs around this, there have been these series of moments that happened at an age where you created then the belief. So whether it was someone saying that you are too loud or too precocious, you create the belief that I am too much, therefore I need to be different. You start to change the way you naturally are in order to fit in. You can become a bit of a chameleon, therefore feeling never quite yourself, feeling that you can never really let fly, let loose, and be accepted and loved as you are. We often can also come up with this if and then kind of belief, which is if I am X, then I will be X, okay? If I am less loud, I will be more lovable. If I am more successful, then I will be more attractive. Whatever. So we get this kind of idea that we are never quite enough to have the thing that we want. Therefore, we are constantly left in a space of lack that creates a vacuum. That creates a vacuum around our feelings of worthiness. That creates a vacuum around our feelings of validity, right? Even just as a human being. The problem with this is it's rigged. It's impossible to win. I had a really difficult relationship with my grandmother. My grandmother did her best. I'll put that out there. She did her best with the tools that she had, but I never measured up in her eyes. I was always too outspoken, too loud. My dress sense was too slutty. She didn't say slutty. She said I dress like a biker's mole. She said that to me when I was 13. So I never felt like I was good enough in the eyes of my grandmother. And I put that lens on so many different things. To be honest, how my grandmother felt about me really just reiterated some other stuff, other beliefs that I'd already put in place because my father wasn't around. My father was an absent dad. He left when I was quite young. He didn't stay in touch because mobile phones and emails weren't a thing then. And that's what I'm telling myself. I mean, who knows? Maybe even if it was more convenient, he wouldn't have stayed in touch because that's where he was at in his life. But either way, these things kept reinforcing the beliefs that I had about myself. And then I continued to find evidence throughout my life that this must be true. It's not until you start to evaluate these thoughts and these beliefs rather than just letting them run on autopilot so that you then follow them down the rabbit hole and believe them, and that makes you feel really bad about yourself. So you see how these childhood messages compound, like your grandmother's disappointment, your father's absence, your mum didn't show up to whatever, somebody did this thing, and it all just becomes evidence that you are not enough, that you are not worthy, that you are not lovable. But here's the thing, the whole system is rigged against you. It's a game that is impossible to win. It's stacked against us. You will never be enough of that thing in order to feel like you are worthy of whatever. So say for instance with this person who wrote in, who has made a number of mistakes over their life, therefore they are not worthy of success or good things coming to them. I have fucked up, therefore I am a fuck up. That is not true. That is not how it works. Humans make mistakes, and it is a very, very important part of being a human. We need to make mistakes. We don't learn from things when they're smooth and easy. We learn from the times that we do fuck up royally. And then what we do is we come around, we repair as best as we can, and that is a very important part of the process. We don't just make the mistake and then go, oh, well, too bad, you suck, deal with it. We need to come back and work out how to live with, move through, get around this thing that we've done so that we can move forward with a semblance of ease or satisfaction, or releasing any sort of feelings of guilt or that we are, or shame around the fact that we've made mistakes. Humans make mistakes, and making one mistake doesn't discount or doesn't then cancel out every good thing that you've ever done. That's just crazy. But we don't focus on the good things that we've done. We focus on the things that do bring us those feelings of guilt and shame. We focus on the things that do make us feel like we are not enough or not worthy, rather than focusing on, or marinating, as I like to say, on the really good stuff that does prove, not that we need to prove it, we are innately, inherently worthy simply because we exist. Think about when a friend comes to you with a mistake. A friend of mine recently came to me to tell me about an affair she was having. Now, I'm not here to judge whether, what about affairs, whether it's right, wrong, whatever, but she was really tearing herself up in spite of finding this new beautiful thing in her life. But she knew that there was going to be a lot of repercussions. There was a lot of collateral damage in this thing, and it was really eating her up inside. But here's my question. Just because she has done this thing, does that mean that she is not worthy of love? Does this one complicated human decision mean that she deserves endless punishment and judgment? Of course not. Of course not. And yet that is often exactly what we do to ourselves. We often, as humans, have a capacity to be so much more forgiving of other people than we are of ourselves. We can listen to someone's story, particularly if it's a dear friend, and we will have zero judgment. We might offer some advice, we might offer some help, but we don't judge our friends as harshly as we judge ourselves. And what is that about? I wonder if we look at it through that lens a little more deeply. If we go back just a couple of steps ago where I said these thoughts and beliefs are often imprinted on our cells between the ages of 0 and 7. So maybe what we need now is to be able to reparent ourselves with the kind of loving acceptance that we needed way back when. How do we do that? We've got to start to recognize when we are running these old patterns. What happens is sometimes we just we've said this thing so many times. I'm a bad person. I'm a piece of shit. I'm unworthy. I fuck up. We say this thing so many times that we don't even recognize that we are saying it to ourselves. It's like, when you have a Post-it note on your fridge and then you don't even see the Post-it note anymore, or you have a mantra or something and you've said it so many times it's lost its meaning. So it's about being able to recognize, so re-see that Post-it note. When that Post-it note or when that thing is popping up, hello, you are this, you are not this, you are too blah, 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 whatever the thing is, to be able to recognize when that is popping up, and instead of just mindlessly believing it, recognizing this is an old pattern that I once put in place as a survival mechanism. Is this serving me in this particular situation? Because you get to choose. Am I going to continue to run this old program? Or am I going to question it? Am I going to maybe think something else? Because again, you get to choose. Yes, I have made mistakes. And yes, I have also done really amazing things. And I'm going to focus on the amazing things because those are the things where I've really had to dig deep, prove my worth. That's the second time I've used the word prove, and I don't like that. It's not about proving your worth. You really do not have to prove your worth. You are inherently worthy simply because you are, simply because you exist. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of joy. You are worthy of beautiful things, of pleasure, of success, of whatever your heart desires. You just need to go and create it. First, you probably need to believe it and then go and create it. You can't just think your way out of this, though. You have to practice. Think of it like creating a path through tall grass. Every time you walk through the grass, you are carving a path, right? Every time you think, I'm not worthy, you are walking that same path. You're making it deeper. In order to change this, then maybe you need to create a new path, right? By walking a different way, therefore creating a different thought, having a different thought. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve. When you start thinking that, ask, is this really true? What would I tell my best friend if they said this? What would I tell my child? What would I do if I knew I was worthy? And then when you've got that, yeah, that's the thing you do. Do that. Recognize when you're thinking that thing, I am no good, I make mistakes, I fuck up, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve, blah, blah, blah. When you think that, start to think your new thought. And it is something that needs to be done. It is a habit. So you are going to need to create the new habit. So you can ask yourself some questions around this thing. Is it really true? Is it really helpful that I think this? Do I have evidence that it's true? Do I have evidence to the contrary? And then you can create a positive emotional thought. This particular practice is called ants to pets. You've got your automatic negative thought, which is the thing that you've thought so many times has created the pathway in the grass. And then you can create the positive emotional thought. So we are specifically looking at the thing that feels better than thinking that first thought. Also, you can ask, what would I say if my best friend said this? What would I say if my daughter said this? Or my son even, if my child said this to me? How would I respond? And then that is your moment to begin the reparenting of yourself. What would I say if my own child said this to me about themselves? And then you can reply to yourself with the answer that you would give them, which is going to be filled with love, filled with compassion, maybe a little bit of humor, but definitely a whole lot more gentle than the way that you speak to yourself in your brain. Perhaps you could even ask yourself, what would I do if I knew that I was worthy? What would I do if I really believed that I was worthy? Or even, what would someone who knows that they are inherently worthy do in this situation? And start to think about things through a slightly different lens. Because when you answer that question, well, there's your answer. That's the thing that you need to go and do next. You need to begin to question these things that you have thought about yourself for a really long time. Because your grandmother's disappointment or your grandmother's dislike does not equal your worthiness. Your parent who doesn't show up for you the way you know a really good or really nurturing parent would does not equal your worthiness. Your results at school, your results at work, your relationships, whether they work or they don't, do not equal your worthiness. To the beautiful woman who wrote in with this email, you didn't write to me because you think you're unworthy. You wrote to me because you are ready to remember who you really are. There's a part of you that knows without question that you are inherently worthy. No matter what you do, you are worthy simply because you exist. A grandmother's disappointment doesn't equal worthiness. A parent's availability or absence doesn't equal worthiness. Financial mistakes, school reports, things that we do, they don't equal worthiness. Your worthiness is your birthright, and that can never be taken away from you. It is because you are. It's not a report card. I'll see you soon.